Hi, I'm Robert.
And I'm Shane with New Leaf Cabinets and Counters in Tacoma, Washington.
We're here today to talk about the differences between particle board and plywood. People come in every day asking about plywood and whether our cabinets are standard plywood, whether or not it's stronger, but very rarely do people ask me if it's actually worth the money to upgrade to plywood.
Is plywood any better than particle board?
Plywood is absolutely better than particle board, but in my professional opinion, as a cabinet dealer, a cabinet installer, and a professional carpenter, it's really not necessary.
Right. One of the major differences between plywood and particle board are the strength of plywood and the water absorption quality. The reality is that the cabinet's constructed well. The strength is in the construction method and not necessarily in the material.
I agree. The way that the cabinet is put together and the way that it is installed is far more important than what it's made of. I've seen a ton of Chinese cabinets that boast all plywood construction, but they don't have eye braces, they don't have corner braces, and they're generally not put together well. I mean, they could be made of steel and they'd still be pieces of junk.
Exactly. One of the biggest downsides with Chinese plywood is that it's just not made to the same stringent quality standards that American plywood's made. The material's not the same, the adhesion glues are not the same, it's just not the same quality.
Not to mention who knows what kind of chemicals are in there. So the bottom line is, in my opinion, you don't really need plywood cabinets except in a few areas.
Exactly. One major difference is the water absorption quality. Particle board does not absorb water as well and is honestly worse in the water absorption compared to plywood, which is why at New Leaf we design all of our kitchens with standard plywood boxes for the sink bases.
So the sink base only.
Just the sink base. The reason is if there's a small leak, the plywood will give you that added protection, whereas if you have a catastrophic event, the reality is all of your cabinets are destroyed. If they're plywood, particle board, your flooring's destroyed, you've got a major issue in a catastrophic event.
Right, and by upgrading just that one plywood box instead of the whole order, I mean, we're talking about a lot of money. If you're spending $15,000 on a set of cabinets, 10% upgrade to plywood is $1,500. If you're upgrading that one cabinet, you're talking, maybe 50 bucks.
Exactly.
Another place that's really good is on the exposed ends of cabinets. So like at the end of a run, next to the window, over the stove, places that you're gonna see the side of the cabinet. Another feature that we do is what's called a flush finished end. Some manufacturers refer to it as a furniture end. And what that means is that on that one exposed side of the cabinet, you're gonna have a 3/4 inch finished, factory finished piece of plywood that's integrated into the face frame rather than that 1/2 inch particle board. So that's key in those high traffic areas where people are actually gonna bump, bruise, scratch those cabinets. Put it there.
So are there any spots where you would want to upgrade the entire kitchen cabinetry to plywood?
I would say that if you live in a really high humidity environment, Hawaii, when we ship cabinets to Hawaii, we always upgrade those to plywood. I would imagine maybe in the South or some parts of the country, maybe a commercial setting, but in the majority of residential settings, no, it's not. I mean, here we charge 10%. It's a 10% upgrade. It's just a materials cost between the particle board and the plywood. So if you're spending, $12,000, $15,000, that's a lot of extra cash to fork over to something that you're not really ever going to see.
Now the one major exception would be frameless cabinets, and that's because the hinges for the doors are screwed directly into the box of the cabinet. The additional strength that the plywood gives you with that screw location for the hinge is worth the extra expense on frameless, especially if the budget allows that to be.
I agree completely. The difference is in traditional face frame cabinetry, whether it's half overlay, full overlay, or inset cabinetry, your screws for the hinges on the doors are going to mount into the face frame, which should be made of whatever material you chose for your finish. So if it's a cherry, a maple, an oak, your screws for the hinges are going to be mounting directly into that hardwood, which is actually going to be even stronger than plywood. So again, the plywood construction wouldn't matter in that setting, but in a frameless application, absolutely, I agree that it should be a plywood box.
So in summary, plywood is more expensive than particle board, and it's not necessarily worth the extra expense. What we do at New Leaf is we design our kitchens where the most susceptible areas and the areas that you want that upgraded plywood are standard with our designs.
Bottom line, big box store employees that have a high turnover rate and no experience aren't going to know this kind of stuff. That's why you need to come to a shop like New Leaf Cabinets and Counters, or your local small mom and pop cabinet dealer or cabinet manufacturer that's going to have the experience and the knowledge that you need to make your project successful.
So thanks for stopping at New Leaf Cabinets and Counters, and have a great day.
Check us out at nlcabinets.com.